A meerkat on sentry duty scans his patch. This is South Africa's Addo Elephant National Park, and the meerkats share it with many neighbours, small and large. White storks flying down from the north are regular visitors to this apparently peaceful refuge. But trouble is brewing for the Addo gang. This is a very competitive and dangerous world. Intruders. The Addo gang stands firm as their rivals charge forward. Now they're in the Addo gang's territory, the intruders are slightly unsure of themselves. This is the moment the Addo gang have been waiting for. They charge. The neighbours' nerves break, and the gang press home their advantage. Some of the invaders are trapped and are shown no mercy. The rest flee in disarray. The Addo gang have won this round. Although members of the gang may appear identical, each individual has his or her own special role and status. The lead male, Nkosi, is clearly recognizable by the black spot on the top of his head. He reinforces his status by drenching the ground with scent. He's also one of the most diligent guards in the group, and is usually at the centre of social activities. This is Brown Eyes, the dominant female. Her status entitles her to priority in breeding. Currying favour with Brown Eyes is essential. Low-ranking females in particular must grovel before her. She's the queen. But the rulers of the whole park are the elephants. A herd is headed straight for the meerkat's burrow. One heavy step in the wrong place could be troublesome. Once the coast is clear, Nkosi is the first to emerge. Elephants are a nuisance rather than a real threat to the meerkats. The group's success depends on cooperative, unselfish behavior. For these gangsters, strength is unity. A rigid pecking order generally ensures social harmony, but one rule is paramount. Brown Eyes is boss. Whilst being pampered, she notices a low-ranking female foraging nearby. Her attack is unprovoked and savage. The harsh reality of gang life suddenly becomes only too apparent as other meerkats join in the mugging. By helping Brown Eyes now, they may avoid being bullied themselves in the future. Even though life in the gang is tough for some, it's undoubtedly better than being out on one's own. In the windy, dry season especially, finding food is the first priority. An active termite colony is a real bonanza. And a scorpion is a special treat for Nkosi. Worms and locusts are standard fare, and Nkosi will make short work of a sun spider. Perhaps the most valuable find is a clutch of tortoise eggs. Now it's each meerkat for himself. The feast soon deteriorates into an unseemly brawl. The change of season heralds a change for the Addo gang. Brown Eyes and her sisters have given birth. A new crop of fighters and sentries has swelled the group's numbers, and the future looks bright indeed. The social hubbub around the new group members is so intense that the meerkats initially failed to notice the approach of a furtive stranger. Bandit, a nomadic male, has arrived. Nkosi glares at the trespasser, a blatant challenge to his authority. But Bandit is not here to oust Nkosi. Brown Eyes is his target. Having given birth, she's ready to mate again. Bandit sneaks forward towards the group. But the gang won't tolerate him coming any closer. Bandit ducks down a hole. The gang are relentless. But Bandit is a seasoned brawler. He gives as good as he gets. Their point made, the gang return to the burrow to lick their wounds. This young male has been blooded for the first time, but in the tough gangland of Addo, it's unlikely to be his last. Nkosi, like Bandit, is aware that Brown Eyes is ready to mate, but top male or not, all she allows him is a mild hug. His every move is watched by Bandit. Some of the juveniles mistake courtship for play and join in. Nkosi, however, hangs on. Down in the burrow, Brown Eye's litter is unattended. Seeing this, the low-ranking female approaches inquisitively. Brown Eyes needs little excuse to put her down. As always, the beating is severe. And once again, other members of the gang are quick to join in the thuggery. When she resists no longer, the mob victoriously smear one another with scent, while the vanquished female lies humiliated at the feet of her uncaring tormentor. Harmony returns. The Addo gang settles down for a siesta. But Brown Eyes has things other than sleep on her mind. Out in the heat, Bandit gazes back at her. And when the group sets out to forage again, he sidles up towards her. Brown Eyes moves away from the others, and Bandit follows. Finally, hidden by a bush, he sees his chance. But Brown Eyes now plays hard to get. Oblivious to this clandestine courtship, Nkosi sticks diligently to the task of feeding Brown Eyes voracious youngsters. The unflagging Bandit, ever watchful, cautiously approaches once more. But still she doesn't welcome him. Meanwhile, Nkosi, as always, stands guard. In the end, Bandit's persistence pays off. Objective achieved, Bandit will now move on. He'll visit other groups, other females, but almost certainly he'll be back when the next chance arises to mate with one of the Addo gang females. This way, new genes will flow into the group, and unknowingly Nkosi, who is probably a very close relative of Brown Eyes, will help to raise young that Bandit has fathered. The low-ranking female, who is probably not related to the other dominant animals, tries once more to get the acceptance of the group. But while the top-ranking clique groom one another, the lower-ranking members spurn her. At least this time she's escaped a beating. On the lookout for predators, Nkosi notices another threat. A storm is brewing. Brown Eyes too recognizes danger and begins to move the babies to higher ground. As the storm approaches, Nkosi stays at his post. Brown Eyes returns time and again until all the young are out of danger of drowning. Only when the rain begins in earnest does Nkosi head for the shelter of the burrow. When the rain stops, he is the first to emerge, cold and bedraggled. As night falls, the meerkats retreat underground. A fresh new dawn finds the Addo gang warming themselves in the first rays of the sun. With the rain comes an abundance of food for the meerkats. The good times are back. Now the submissive female has her best chance of acceptance by Brown Eyes. At last, she's admitted to the gang as Brown Eyes stoops to groom her. Some of the others are anxious. They've spotted a possible threat. But it's not a dangerous eagle, just a harmless secretary bird. The rainy season continues, bringing welcome relief to all of Addo. The meerkat's dusty patch is transformed into a colourful paradise. And with the flowers come the insects, a feast for the meerkats and insect-eating birds like egrets. The babies are growing too, learning the skills they'll need to survive out here. To keep up in the gang, they have to be competitive and aggressive, particularly when food is involved. But some food is quite simply unreachable. An ostrich egg is just too hard for them to crack. It may not be eatable, but it still makes a good plaything for the inquisitive youngsters. All around, spring is in the air, but so is danger. Jackals rank with eagles as serious threats. The adult gang members immediately cluster around their smaller comrades. As long as they keep the jackal in view, they're safe. But once he disappears, they beat a hasty retreat to the opposite side of their range. There's much that the young gangsters must learn. For example, a hedgehog may sometimes look like another young meerkat, but it's much too prickly to hug. And tortoises are not only bewildering when first encountered, but rather frightening too. Cobras always need to be treated with respect. The real menace, however, comes from the skies. Nkosi spots the martial eagle just in time. He shrieks a warning to the rest of the gang. This is no time for heroics. It's each mongoose for himself as they bolt for their hole. Ignoring the ever-present threats above ground, Nkosi emerges from the burrow alone. As the top male, he must patrol the boundaries of the gang's territory. His scent, smeared on the ground and the vegetation like bold chemical graffiti, proclaims a clear message: keep out. But on these missions, alone and vulnerable, he needs to be specially alert. The crowned plover had better watch out too. Her eggs are at risk. When Nkosi spots her, she immediately abandons her nest to distract him. The plover's mobbing drives him away from their eggs, but it also distracts his attention from the crucial business of looking out for danger. Too late, he sees the rival gang, some 20 strong, tearing down towards him. He dashes for the shelter of a burrow. But outnumbered, he has no chance. Meerkat teeth are as sharp as daggers, and the neighbours show no mercy to their victim. It's their turn now, and they're making the most of it. Eventually, they lose interest. Leaving Nkosi for dead, they head back across the border. Without cover to conceal him, Nkosi has little chance of survival. As the day wears on, Brown Eyes begins to call for her partner. She is far away from him, and her calls are unheard. To have any chance at all, Nkosi must get back to his gang, but his wounds are serious. Between him and his group, the ground is open. Out there, he would be dangerously exposed, but his only hope is to go forward. For several hours, he struggles on. As evening approaches, he finally limps back to the main burrow. But he soon emerges alone. Then, away in the distance, he sees them, his gang. Reunited with their leader, the meerkats indulge in an orgy of greeting and grooming. Nkosi and Brown Eyes are together again. The submissive female, a sad figure, looks on as the group huddles together. She will never achieve high status, but now at least she's spared the bullyings. The pampered Brown Eyes, meanwhile, is becoming heavy with bandits young. Wandering the ganglands, he's sure to visit the Addo gang again. And when he does, he will once more try, and probably succeed, in avoiding the watchful eye of Nkosi. Hidden away in Australia's remotest corners are mysterious creatures found nowhere else on Earth. Come in all sorts of shapes, sizes and colours, but all belong to the same shy treetop community that only emerges at night, the possums. Of all these assorted possums, one has infiltrated a new wilderness. In the urban jungle of Melbourne, the dusk that signals the end of the working day also marks the start of the city's alternative nightlife, brush-tailed possums. As well as being occasional curbside crawlers, these possums regularly drop in on quieter gardens, rather like squirrels do in other parts of the world. These suburban pit stops are linked by thoughtfully placed assault courses, a breeze for a possum born to be in branches. Some routes require an even finer sense of balance. Australia belonged to possums long before people took over. Like many other true natives, such as kangaroos and koalas, possums are marsupials. The females have an inbuilt pouch for their young. Inside this safe incubator, the walnut-sized joey can finish off the first stage of its growing. It can get a bit cramped in there. The saucer-like eyes it will need to see in the dark develop early. When they're bigger, young ringtail possums have to travel piggyback, their feet locking on as tight as a vice, though some don't get much of a view. Urban possums started out here in the rainforest, which still teems with their relatives, possums that have never left their ancestral birthplace. There are no monkeys, woodpeckers or squirrels in Australia. Instead, possums have evolved to fit into every nook and fill every cranny of the rainforest. But few will show their faces before nightfall. This is a 3D lattice of walkways made of twisting vines, leafy ropes and scaffolds of branches, the perfect place for possums. Sharp claws help when things get vertical. And tails are essential for balance. All useful when intruders need seeing to. Possum tails are also prehensile. They can twist round branches like additional limbs. The spotted cuscus's tail is naked, with ridges like the tread on a tire to give it an excellent grip. Latching on is something that the hairier Herbert River ringtail can do too. The lemur possum's personal safety rope is even furrier and takes a lot of looking after. Possums' menus differ as much as their tails do. Some concentrate on leaves, which are not very nutritious, so a leaf eater such as the green possum has to spend most of its time eating, just to keep itself ticking over. To avoid competition, different possums eat different plants. But the striped possum specialises in top-quality food, 4-star fuel that enables it to go up a gear and lead a more energetic lifestyle. Its larder is down below. So, unlike its ground-shy relatives, the striped possum often forages on the forest floor. It even has its own toolkit to help in the search. The first piece of gear is a long, skinny finger, which the possum wraps on the wood, listening for a hollow or some reaction that it has provoked from underneath. Having pinpointed its victim's hiding place, the possum must now extract its meal. It inserts its second tool, a long tongue. Then it unsheaths a pair of long, strong, chisel-like teeth that gouge out the decaying wood. Some of its instruments are multi-purpose. The tapping finger is also a deadly probe. The grub is a neatly packaged capsule of pure energy, well worth the trouble. As well as adjusting well to the rainforest, possums also thrive in some very odd places, thanks to an astonishing evolutionary ability to cope with change. 5 million years ago, the climate of Australia became drier, and much of the rainforest disappeared. It was replaced by great tracts of tall eucalypt woodlands, now cloak much of Australia. But there are no highways of vegetation linking these widely spaced trees, no tangles of branches between the treetops. Yet, in spite of the apparent difficulties, some possums live even here. And, like their rainforest relatives, they too emerge only after dark. If they were going to survive, though, these possums had to find a mode of transport that was quick, efficient, and safe. And they did. If you can't go over land, why not go by air? These are the gliders, possums that plane through the air on broad skin flaps that unfold upon takeoff. They can control their flight path and their landing with great precision. As they touch down on their vertical landing strip, they dig in their claws in order not to fall off. Yellow-bellied gliders fly to specially selected trees to tuck into their favourite food, sap, which oozes out of the gashes they make in the bark. The trunk is pockmarked with the scars of old cuts. Most possums are solitary, but yellow-bellies live in groups. And it's no silent get-together. They're one of the noisiest of all marsupials. Adult males have scent glands on the head, chest, and at the base of the tail. Relatives smear themselves in the dominant male's smell by rubbing against him. It's a sort of scented family signature. In this way, everyone can work out who's who with one whiff. Strange-smelling intruders can be kept away, and for now, there's a fragile calm. But these aren't the only gliders around. The smaller sugar glider also has a tooth that's sweet. But it's not strong enough to bite through such thick bark. So the sugar glider has to sup at the table prepared by others. But the cat-sized host rumbles the rat-sized trespasser. Another freeloader, the mouse-sized feather-tail glider, tucked out of view. It laps up the sap unnoticed. Sugar gliders, like most gliders, are sociable creatures, and more of them soon land to collect whatever's going. But the uneasy peace soon crumbles. It's not just strangers that need evicting. Members of the family can also step out of line. Being shooed off so unceremoniously doesn't matter too much to the sugar glider because it can eat other things. Nectar, for example. Whenever the eucalypt flowers are in bloom, there's plenty of that. And here there's less chance of clashing with other possums, so a sugar glider can take its time. Feathertails, too, find sweet things irresistible. They're so light that they can get right on top of their food. A bit like sitting in the middle of a box of chocolates. By dawn, all the possums have vanished. Sugar gliders have crawled into snug hollows where they spend the day curled up in clans of up to 7. Without these old trees to make their dens in, gliders would have nowhere to sleep and would soon perish. But a few very hardy possums can survive without trees. They've colonized one of the most hostile places in the whole of Australia. The alpine peaks of the southeast are so cold and so bleak that few creatures can survive there. Here, in the scree, over an area of just a few square kilometres, lives the tiny mountain pygmy possum. Like all other possums, it has a pouch, albeit one that barely looks big enough for a jelly bean. The pygmy possum hasn't eaten for months, for it hibernated through the winter, the only possum to do so. But now it's awake and ravenous, and the feast has just arrived. Moths, millions of them. Lining the rock like roof tiles, bogong moths escape the summer heat by retreating each year to the cool air of the mountains. The pygmy possum's fast is finally over. The possum barely has to lift a paw. The fat, rich, bite-sized morsels virtually fly down its throat. Without this seasonal banquet, the possum's babies would not be plump enough to live through the next winter, and this tiny super specialist would eventually disappear for good. Of all the places that possums have colonized, one of the strangest is much closer to home. Our home, that is. One brush-tailed possum has even made it to the top of a 10-storey brewery right in the middle of Brisbane. This possum is so common here that it gets only the most fleeting glance from the locals.
What's that? Museum. Oh, yeah, museum. Pretend you didn't have it. And I repeated it in Rome.
The brushtail is a living waste disposal system. It can eat just about anything, and when the chance arises, it does.
Your glass is empty.
Cleaning up leftovers has enabled the brushtail to spread further than any other Australian marsupial.
That's painful. I like that.
Where there's food, there's a brushtail possum. Normally loners, like other possums, the brushtails in Melbourne's Fitzroy Gardens are forced into groups because of their sheer numbers. Noisy quarrels are inevitable. Parks like this, where there's never a shortage of food, support huge numbers of brushtails. And here, where they rarely go hungry, brushtails can live for up to 10 years and sometimes breed twice a year. In spite of this, no possum is completely secure. Even the cities are not free from predators, including some that are not native, but were brought here by people. Cats are often allowed out at night and are one of the biggest killers of all urban possums. The smaller ringtails are particularly at risk. To the cat, the ringtail is just asking to be chased. The ringtail, however, could be looking death in the eye. Urban possums do have some habits that don't endear them to the local people, such as eating ornamental roses, which tends not to go down too well. Not so much a feast for the eyes as just a plain feast. As well as not being terribly fussy about what they eat, brushtails aren't too bothered about where they make their dens. Unlike most other possums, they don't depend entirely on tree holes to make their nests. Sometimes sheds do just as well. It's not just bed, but breakfast too. Sometimes they become even more neighbourly and take up tenancy in attics. It's a ridiculous time to be asleep anyway. From the possum perspective, of course. But there's no need to lose sleep over urban possums. A few simple possum-proofing measures should deter squatters. Sometimes, however, the problems caused by a single animal can be far more serious than a bad night's kip. To an urban ringtail, electric cables are there to be used in exactly the same way as branches in the rainforest. The acrobat is unfazed by heights and grips the high wire with more confidence than the most skilled tightrope walker. There are no safety nets here, though. Mistakes can be fatal. One false move and everything short circuits. Every year, hundreds of thousands of homes suffer from power cuts caused like this.
But always seems to be...
But living with possums doesn't have to cause problems. Artificial dens can help enormously.
First hour, 7 overs bowled and 52 runs scored, so they've taken the initiative away.
Putting nest boxes right outside the window means that possums are a novelty rather than a nuisance.
They have steadied and
Right
played
now,
very
though,
positively.
Pakistan is beating Australia in the third test. The live natural history show will just have to wait.
That's a magnificent six. Well, he's really decided to get stuck into that one. Belted it down the ground and it's gone way back.
It's Saturday night, time for Melbourne's locals to go out on the town and have some fun. But some make their way to the Fitzroy Gardens for the wildest time of all.
His little pig nose, come on. Come on.
Look, there's a big raisin there. Like raisins.
Come on.
There you go.
Gotta get
Ah,
down.
the Billy's whiskers.
The possums have got some families so well trained that they get fed every weekend.
Let's have this lovely bread.
Fantastic tail. Wow.
Come on, you've got to
Look
come
at the
down.
size of that tail, isn't it magnificent?
Yeah.
I can see its teeth. Oh, it's even
Is it
getting
soft?
patting. Wow. It's amazing.
It's hard to say who gets the most out of the encounter.
Oh, I want to have it too. I want to touch.
Many people are unaware that this regular suburban visitor has dozens of different forest relatives hundreds of miles away, whose faces, though not quite so familiar, are just as endearing and just as fascinating. The possum's triumph is their enormous versatility, which has enabled these secretive nighttime creatures to spread into so many different places. Possums take on so many different forms and lead so many different lifestyles. But for most Australians, the word possum means one thing only: brushtail. Indeed, if success is measured by being able to live just about anywhere, then of all the possums, the brushtail in particular has scaled the dizziest of heights.